The angels are coming. Or rather, the Dark Angels are coming. Everyone and their dogs knows that the new Dark Angels models arrive in about a week from when I publish this video. And I don't think I will have to say it, but I will either way. I really loved their Dark Angels. I love their models, and I especially love their lore. And I just finished my Lionel Johnson model, so my Warlord is ready. But I have a bunch of Deathwing Terminators and a Deathwing Knights unit that needs another character model, besides Belial, which for me is a must. Therefore I thought I should share my little mini Kitbash project I did a couple of months ago. Be mindful of that I am by no means any master painter. Instead I strive for battle-ready models and I learn as I go. I turned my Leviathan Terminator Captain into a Dark Angels Strikemaster. Or rather a Dark Angels Terminator Captain, since the Strikemaster is no longer a thing in the new codex. I won't comment that any further. For this kitbash I used the Terminator Captain you got in the Leviathan box set, and some parts from the old Deathwing Knights. I think they were from the Wrath of the Soulforge box actually. Well, as I said, this is a very easy and small kitbash project. The only parts I did change were the head, I switched it for a hooded one, and the back wings. Did you know that these back wings were actually used by Polish hussars between the 15th and the 16th century? They were an elite cavalry unit which also had a nickname that I think most of you within the 40k hobby will recognize. They were called the Angels of Death. Does that ring any bells? So my way of painting this model is that I first used the rattle can primers. I started with Chaos Black and then I used a zenithal of Wraithbone. I started with Gilman flesh for his face, which is the only part of visible skin, and that is actually barely visible. I then go for Black Templar to paint all tubes and armor seals between the armor plates. When that's done, I went for the Basilicanum Grey to paint the Crux Terminatus on his shoulder and on his leg. After that, it was time to add some greens. And what other green than Dark Angels green could I actually use? So I painted the hood and the cape in this color, as well as the wings on his chest. Apothecary White is my go-to for painting feathers, so that is what I used for the wings on his back. As we all know, Dark Angels have red weaponry, so Blood Angels Red is used as a base layer for the Stone Bolter casing. After I apply the red color, I do all of the gold details. For this I used the Trusted Retributor Armor gold color. And after gold comes silver. For this I used Lead Belcher as a base. At least that's what I think. I can't remember actually. Well, this color was used for all the silver details, including the chains, the sword, and shoulder banners, or what you call them. The thing that has text on them, on the shoulders. At this stage, I have added all of the base layers except for the color of the armor. For this, I simply cover the entire armor and weapons with Seraphim Sepia. This creates a beige or bone color that I think suits the Deathwing quite nice and is very easily to apply. And for this model I also used a shade of Drakenhof Nightshade to make the green color a bit darker. So because this is what I use for my army of Dark Angels to darken their armor a bit. By the way, if you like this content, please support me on Patreon to help me bring better and better videos for you in the future. When the shade have dried, I started to layer all the colors up. I started with the green color, and here I used the Warpstone Glow. I still haven't learned to paint capes properly. I think I am improving at least, so I just make for this model one pass where I only paint the highest creases of the cape with this Warpstone color. After that, it was time to try and make the feathers a bit more interesting. For this I used the Briar Queen Chill contrast paint, which is a bit of a blue and white. I only covered some spots of the feathers with this to try and create some variety within the feathers. Dawnstone is used to layer up the Crux Terminatus on the shoulder and on his leg. After that, I used Wraithbone to layer up the purity seals. I think this color makes sense, but in hindsight I would rather paint the purity seals in maybe a red or green, because the Wraithbone color is quite similar to the color of the armor when the miniature is done, but I think it's okay for this one. Ushabti Bone is my go-to color when I layer up my Deathwing miniatures, and so I use this for this miniature as well. I painted up all the raised areas of the armor, and I try to leave the recesses in that darker hue that the Seraphim Sephia created. As I am no master painter, I struggle sometimes with adding the layering on the proper place, but that I mean that I try to paint the model brighter in the spots where the light would hit it if shone from an angle above. And this is also something that I try to improve for every miniature that I paint. The red layering is done with Evil Sun's Scarlet. I think that the mix of Blood Angel's red and the Evil Sun's Scarlet works wonders, at least in my book. For all of the gold detail, I only dry brush it with a light layer of Runefang steel. This is to create some variety within the gold and some highlights. And the dry brushing of the gold parts is actually the last step for this miniature. I also painted a base, but I did not film it and didn't show it because it was just a super easy base and not something special. What I didn't mention earlier is that I also, somewhere along the road, added some transfers. All in all, I am actually quite happy with the result. It is no masterpiece of work or a piece of masterwork, I think. But it's okay. I think for my level of painting, I am really happy with it. And I will call this dude Sariel, I think. An angelic name that really suits the Dark Angels. Not to be confused with Sahariel, which is an existing Dark Angels. Maybe Sariel already exists as well. I don't know actually. Well, I hope you liked the video and give me a thumbs up if you liked the results.